Greetings. Welcome, sharps, newbies, and squares. It's yet another edition of Play On with Jorey and Harley. Harley, a.k.a. the professional. And apologies to you, Harley, for not pointing that out the last couple of weeks, that you are indeed the professional gambler on this show. I'm just a schmo.
You're the square, the newbie. No, you're nothing.
Yeah, I'm not a square. I will take offense to the square, the notion of being a square.
And you're not a sharp, so you're none of the
right.
three.
I'm a schmo. I just came up with something new.
Schmo. Right. Okay, so schmo, you want to be known as? I'll call you the schmo.
I'll live with that.
I had a couple of losing weeks. I'm still the professional.
You are still the professional.
Grinding it out.
We'll get to your picks and your recap. Just hold your horses. I have to do the formalities first. But I just wanted to point out that I've been a little lax on pointing out that you are a professional gambler. And that is an important element of this program, which is powered by PointsBet, the official sports book of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Maybe they want to get rid of the Leafs portion of that,
we'll
things went the other night.
Later. Let's go Raptors.
As well as who won last night in the home opener.
And covered on a last-second bucket. More importantly, this is a sports betting show.
Yes,
nice
it is.
That the Raptors were up by 1, but a dunk with 0.1 second left. I don't know if you know, but now the NBA and all these leagues have to scrutinize all these things because
in terms of when that last bucket goes in or when a foul is committed, if a guy's going to the line, because yes, it affects the spread, the total, parlays, everything.
The craziest is the props. Like now, every single time they score something, an assist or not an assist, people are sending in videotape to the league like, how is this an assist? It bounced off a guy or whatever, because these judgment calls are moving millions, and bettors, when it goes against them, it's always rigged.
So as I said, the show is powered by PointsBet, official sports book, I'll say it again, of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, NBC, and so much more. It is an NFL Week 7 and a whole lot more edition. And I'm going to say, because it's a unique day in sports.
Only
we'll get to that in a sec.
Come on. We got to discuss it.
Hold on. Let me do I got to do the formalities.
Okay, formality
Remember,
ways.
I'm the schmo, and I'm also the broadcaster on the program, okay? So keep that in mind.
Go for it, schmo.
We are with you each and every Thursday live from the Bottom Line on Front Street in downtown Toronto, which is literally right next door to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And one of the professional, a.k.a. Harley's favorite spot for wings. Come down, say hi, enjoy the wings, drinks, the great atmosphere, always hopping on a Leaf game night and a Raptor game night. Tonight's a Leaf game night in downtown TO. So you're always welcome. If you are coming down on a game night, we should point out that it's a good idea to get a reservation.
If you want to eat wings here pre-Leaf game when the Leafs
or
are playing,
Raptors.
Or pre-Raptors, this 5:30, it's mobbed here. Yes, you need a reservation. Come game time, some people go to the game.
Right.
So if you want to watch a game here, it'll kind of clear out and turn over and you should be okay.
So that's our shameless plug for our great host here at the Bottom Line, and it's not shameless. What's going to happen on today's show? We'll talk all about Week 7 in the NFL and sports equinox. So now you can explain why it is a very interesting and unique, as I said earlier, day in the world of sports.
It's actually what I'll call the Equinox Plus. So the sports equinox has only occurred 26 times previously. It's when the 4 majors, MLB, NHL, NBA, and
NFL.
I missed the NFL, which will outrate everything despite the fact that 2 shitty teams are playing to stay alive. But whatever, that's a whole
they'll have the most eyeballs.
By far, and the most wagering dollars by far.
So all 4 major North American professional sports will have a game tonight, as well as
I call it the Equinox Plus because the MLS, which is the 5th major sport in North America, is hosting not 1 but 2 playoff games. The Philadelphia Union and the LA Galaxy are home favorites.
So this does not happen very often. As you said, this is number 27, and I don't know about the plus part. We'll have to do some research.
Somebody else will do some research. Maybe Seb, who's not around today, can go home and do it.
That's right. The social media man at PointsBet Canada. So what you won't get is a breakdown of every single NFL game. The focus will be on the games that Harley likes, and perhaps I like, props, parlays. There's always a same game parlay, usually on the Thursday nighter from Harley. And then whatever else we like for this week's games, tonight's game on the sporting calendar. And as we've established,
I'm going to
there's
cover the whole
plenty
Equinox.
to choose from. There's only 2 NBA games tonight, 1 NFL game, a big slate in the NHL, and just the 1 Major League Baseball playoff game because the National League Championship Series is on their off day for travel, but the Astros and Yankees will play game 2 tonight. Corey Travers, head trader at PointsBet Canada, will be by for his weekly visit, and another multi-sport name a bet.
Trio.
Courtesy.
I hit the trio.
Yeah.
I hit a trio today.
I said multi-sport.
Which sport did I exclude?
We will not have Teddy Greenstein on this week.
Teddy's got more important things.
Yeah, but he's kind of become an every other week guy. But he was 2-0 on the show last week, and we should start to consider if we track Teddy's results on the show. Should we?
Well,
we'll ask him.
If we track him with you, then maybe he can help
Between
carry
the two
you.
of us,
Yeah.
he can help lift me because I'm not in a good spot right now. But I'm going to have a pick for today, I think.
Awesome.
There could also be a gambling story of the week and all kinds of other gambling relating news that we will share. I didn't get a hard look, but did you get a look at the numbers from the second quarter report of gaming results in Ontario?
Yeah, I took a quick look. They were up from the first quarter.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, there's more licensed operators, and it's a better time of year.
Certainly with the NFL, right? Because the NFL is king from a betting standpoint. If you're a newbie, we will tell you, NFL beats all by a lot generally.
The truth is the newbies know this because the newbies are probably only paying attention for the NFL because it's the funnest sport probably to bet on.
So if you want to reach out to us, tell me I'm a schmo, tell Harley he's not really a professional, which I would argue with because he is. You can get to us on Twitter. I'm at Jorey Middle, Jorey for the first part. Harley is at Sharp Edge Picks. You can also email us, playon@pointsbet.ca. All right, it's that time of the show. You jumped the gun earlier, but I'll let you in now. Recap your picks. I had none last week.
Mm-hmm.
What am I down? 3 point something?
07.
3.07.
2 dogs, and you had to lay the PointsBet reduce 107 VIG the third time. Ben lost that one also.
We like the 107 VIG.
We're going to get into the 107
when you
VIG.
lose.
You like it when you
so
lose?
I know you had a really nice baseball win again.
I pretty much broke even
and then
for the week.
And then you hitched your wagon to the god-awful Carolina Panthers.
Who were covering for most of the game and then could have backdoor, so it is what it is.
But when your quarterback throws for 60 yards in an entire game, that would be P.J. Walker, the third stringer, your chances aren't very good of doing anything, including covering a point.
Well, they had a first and goal from the 7, so if he would have passed for 67 yards, I would have covered.
All right, where do you stand? How'd you do last week, and where do you stand?
I entered the week up a quarter of a unit. I bet less last week because I was struggling. I lost 0.2 units on my same game parlay Thursday. Another snoozer. Even the announcers are making fun of the games.
Yeah.
The whole thing, that's not good. That's not good. I won 1.25 units, as you mentioned. My Phillies won a series as a dog for the second time. So, again, I've been riding that Phillies horse. I lost 107 units on the Panthers. Again, they were live, just miscovering. I lost 0.02 units for the week. Still up 0.23 units. Just to clarify unit betting, because I got asked that question this week again. The idea of unit betting is your base amount of betting. So for me, it's in the thousands. For most casual and responsible gamblers, it should be between 5
Schmoes like me.
Schmoes like you, it should be a dime, like literally 10 cents, not $1,000 quote. For most guys, somewhere.
No, but 5, 10, 20,
10,
whatever.
$20, whatever it is. Stick to your units. Don't press too often, and you should be okay in the long term.
And that leads me right into our first time today to remind everybody that PointsBet wants you to enjoy your gambling experience. But if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call the Connex or Connex Ontario helpline. I'll say the number slowly, 1-866-531-2600, or message PointsBet's amazing customer support, and they will help you personally. Before we get into what I like to do, before we talk about the games in the NFL for week number 7 and the numbers through 6 weeks, we're going to talk betting concepts and different things over the course of the program. I want to talk to you today about teasers. Teasers are would you agree, kind of like an old school bet that is really associated with the NFL, right?
Mhm.
Going back in time. But with the advent of same game parlays and the wide array of props available to everybody now, you don't really hear much talk about teasers. And so I was reading something this week where somebody was
I think
showing.
first we need to explain what a teaser is,
Yes,
right?
okay,
Because if
so
you're a
do
square,
that first.
and definitely if you're a newbie, you'd be like, "What the hell is that?"
I jumped the gun. Go ahead.
So a teaser, the conventional teaser in the NFL is basically you get extra points on the
Usually
point spread.
6.
Call it somewhere between 6 and 6.5 points. And you basically got to win 2 games or a parlay of 2 to get the same kind of return with the minus 110 type of VIG as you would have traditionally gotten on 1 game. So the long story short about the math is you're going to win more often because you're getting an extra 6 to 7 points. So say, for example, you have a 2.5 point underdog. You get the extra 6.5 points. They can lose by 5 or 7 or even 8.
Right.
And you cover.
And you cross over a key number.
We'll
right?
talk about crossing over the key numbers in a second, but you got to win these each way about 70% of the time just to spin your wheels and about 72% of the time to turn a profit.
If you want to again, you have to pair 2 games together, right? And take 6 or 6.5 points on each that you can apply to the point spread in the direction you want. So there are there are certain spreads that you should not tease, and there are spreads that you should look to tease. So explain that.
Well, the best ones to tease are ones that cross the 2 key numbers 3 and 7. So 1.5 to 2.5 point dogs laying between 7.5 and 8.5. Or on the flip side, 7.5 to 8.5 point favorites laying 1.5 to 2.5 points.
Right. Bringing the 7 to 8 point favorite down, bringing the 1-2 point dog up.
Crossing the 3 and the 7. Again, the lower the over-under in the game, the better off you are. Less likely that the value of each point increases when less points are anticipated to be scored.
Right.
Casual bettors and pros very rarely are on the same side. Both are on the same side when you find 7.5 or 8.5 point favorites in the NFL, and you can tease them down to 1.5 or 2.5. Pros know the value of the key numbers. Casual fans just think they're locks and they got to win. So great examples last week. For example, the Green Bay Packers are at home to the New York Jets, and they're I
think they were 8.5.
8.5 point favorite. You can tease.
Or maybe I think it may have gone up to 10, but in any case,
you can tease Rodgers down to 1.5 at home to the Jets. He's obviously going to beat the Jets at home. The Jets suck. Wrong. Everybody loses. Or the Bucks.
Tampa Bay. They were 8.5.
Brady against a no-name. I don't know if you know
Kenny
this.
Pickett.
Brady went the night before to Robert Kraft's wedding.
I think it was, yeah. Was it Friday? I think it was Saturday night. Yeah.
And then lost. And Belichick
Didn't
skipped
go.
the wedding. Probably told Kraft, you know what? I'd rather deliver a win. Kraft said go for it, and he crushed the Browns as a dog. So, I mean, it's funny. For the last couple of years, we've been saying that Brady was the awesome part, and Belichick rode his coattails, and now
I don't know who was saying that.
Brady looks done. And
I'm not ready to say that. I'm not ready.
Rodgers. What about Rodgers?
I'm not ready to say he's done either.
Russell Wilson?
That may be a different story. He looks more cooked than the other guys, and he's a lot younger than them.
Or he just looks like the kind of guy that locked in a lot of guaranteed money and said, I don't need this shit anymore.
But apparently he's a quick healer, right? Because he had a hamstring injury that looked like it was going to keep him out this week, and now he's magically healed and looks like he's going to go. So just to cap off the teaser discussion, you don't want to be taking 3-4 point favorites.
That's a disaster because
right?
You're crossing the 0, which never comes in overtime.
Right. So just for newbies, if they're thinking of playing teasers,
focus on 1.5, 2.5, 7.5, and 8.5. That's it.
Okay. I have one other thing before we get to the numbers.
Okay.
From a handicapping standpoint, do you ever look, and a lot of this information is readily available now online, or, if you read different publications, different websites, there's so much about sports betting that is available to the consumer. Do you ever look like the example I'm referring to is Monday night,
Okay.
right? So Monday night, the Chargers were a 4.5 point favorite over the Broncos,
Mhm.
right? Everybody had seen the Broncos absolutely crap the bed, especially on offense, in 3 of their first games in prime time, right? So I'm reading online 95% of the tickets and about 90% of the money were on the Chargers Monday night. You know that's almost all public, right? That's generally not going to be the Sharps. It could be, but generally that's the inference you would make. When you see something like that, do you just say, I'm just betting the Broncos?
For the most part, I mean, that's it. I don't need to see where the money's going. I know where the money's going. Like studying it, that is kind of gimmicky, and I don't trust those
Okay,
numbers
but
that they produce. I mean, sports books take months to begrudgingly post numbers they have to for accounting purposes. So I don't trust that any of those sites that claim, I mean, listen, if you work for an individual sports book and you choose to
Sometimes
release
the numbers are coming right from the books. They're saying that we're getting right. We're
right, they're
hugely
saying,
one-sided,
I prefer
and
to
they're not going
see
to.
it.
They may lie, but I doubt it.
I don't know. I don't know if it's coming from one place. I don't really necessarily trust those numbers, but I know where the money's going. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that when the Broncos look like shit and the Chargers look pretty good, and they're playing on prime time where people are going to be betting. They're going to be betting, and if the line doesn't move, which it didn't really move, if anything, it moved in Denver's favor from 4.5 to 4. You know that the public is all over it, which means the sports books and the sharper bettors are happy with the Broncos. And the way that game played out, I mean, they won it.
No, the Broncos covered.
Yeah, of course they covered.
They lost by 3.
The books were happy. I don't think the Chargers were covering for a single moment in that game. They
They
weren't. The Broncos came out to that 10-0
Broncos
lead.
got out to the 10-0 lead. I don't think they were ever up by more than 3. I think you might be right. They might have been up in 6 at one point, but it was short-lived if that was the case. You were always in the game if you're on Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have a similar question about looking just at a line when we get to the 1 o'clock games. First, though, numbers through week 6, and I'm going to try to not have
unders, dogs. We get it. They're crushing. Is that a summary?
No.
Oh,
not so much.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to talk about home teams straight up. 8-6 last week. Tiny bit of a win for the home teams, but only 4 games over 500 for the year are the home teams, right? We've talked about that. I'll leave that. Let it sit there for a bit. The favorites actually had a winning week. There were buys last, right? The buys started last week, 4 teams off, so it's 14 games. The favorites were 8-6, but the dogs still lead in a big way, 52-38-3, 57.8%. Home dogs, remember I talked about how many there were? More than half the games were home dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They split 4-4, but 5 games over 500, 56.4% for the home dogs on the season. What do you make of this one, though? Away dogs. Almost 59% for the away underdogs, which goes to what I was talking about with the home teams, right? Not really having much of a home field advantage. In terms of the unders, yes, you are correct. Crushed again. 9-4-1. 56-36-2 on the season. That is almost 61%. And I have some other numbers now that most teams have played 6 games this year. Who do you think is the only undefeated team against the spread? You knew.
I know.
So the Falcons are 6-0, but they're 3-3 straight up.
Mm-hmm.
The G-Men are 5-1 to match their straight up record. Bills are 4-1-1. Chargers are 4-2, along with the Cowboys, Eagles, Bengals, and Jets. Who's at the bottom of the against the spread list? Do you know? It's actually not hard to figure out.
Yeah, who's underperforming?
Carolina.
Yeah.
They're 1-5. They're 1-5 against the spread. There are 10 teams at 2-4. Most of it match their records. So just want to point that out because now we have a big enough sample size where we can start to look at things like how a team is faring against the spread, right? Because remember we had Detroit last year, won 3 games, right? But they had won 11 They were like 11 and
Yeah,
6
that's what
against
the
the spread.
Falcons are this year. A team that we thought was going to be horrible, and they're mediocre, so they cover a lot.
They're mediocre like 75% of the league.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the 1 o'clock games. There's 7 this week because we have more buys this week. 2 games caught my eye and sort of a third. One of them is the aforementioned Atlanta Falcons. And why did it catch my eye? Because they're 3-3. They're at the 3-3 Cincinnati Bengals, teams with matching records. Certainly, the preseason expectations were a lot different for both, right? The Bengals are a 6.5-point favorite. The total is 47, down a half point from last night. The other game, good divisional battle for top spot in the division. That's in the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts are 3-2-1. They're at Tennessee to take on the 3-2 Titans. That one is 2.5. The total's 42. Titans only 3-2. They're coming off the bye. The other game that I wanted to ask a question about is the 5-1 New York Giants at Jacksonville to take on the 2-4 Jags. Do you know what the spread is in this game?
Well, the Jags are obviously a favorite. They're a
3-point
better team.
favorite.
Yeah, of course.
You think the Jags are a better team?
Of course they are. You don't? If you could
I
trade-
was on.
if you
You
were
know,
a-
I was on the Jags bandwagon after they won 2 straight and blew out the Chargers.
Well, the NFL's a quarterback league, and Trevor Lawrence is way better than the Giants quarterback.
He still has a lot to prove.
Listen,
I don't know
life's
that he's way better at
Life's
this
really
point.
simple. If you were the GM of the Giants and they just called you and said, listen, the Jags want to
Straight
swap
up
full
trade.
teams with you. No, not
Oh, full
quarterbacks.
teams.
Full teams. Will you do it? Of course you'll do it. The Jags have way more talent. The Jaguars are way higher rated. What's a couple wins here or there?
All
I
right.
say by the end of the season, the
So
Jaguars
my
are
question
on par with
is, sometimes when you look at a line, are the bookmakers telling you something?
Well, I mean, yes,
Like in this, they're telling you exactly what you just said.
Of course, the Jaguars are a better team. And
All
I
right.
mean, 3 points is more than home field now in the NFL, like you just said. Home fields at most worth 2 points. I don't even know if the Jags' mediocre fan base is worth 2 points. So the Jags are clearly a better team. The Jags would be a pick 'em in New York.
It would be Pick'em.
In New York.
Yeah, I think that's, again, about right. In other words, the bookmakers do not have a lot of faith in the Giants,
No, they
at
don't.
least at this point.
Mhm.
And probably not totally unfounded, but they keep winning. You have any picks on the 1 o'clock games?
I got to pick in the 1 o'clock games and I got to pick in the 4 o'clock games. And I want to do them together because my analysis combined. So you want me to do it now or you want to run
All
the
right,
4s
well-
and prime times first? You call.
Do you have a
You're
prime
the
time?
host,
Do you have a
Schmo.
prime time pick?
No, it's a 4 o'clock game.
Okay. So the 4 o'clock game that stood out is the one that's probably going to get the most eyeballs. And that's the 4-2 Chiefs off the loss to Buffalo at San Francisco to take on the 3-3 Niners.
Great game.
Yeah, and very intriguing, which
Yes, it is.
I'll get to. So now I'll leave the prime timers. Tell me your 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock picks.
Okay, let's start with a stat that I think matters. There's been 56 one-score games this year.
I
A
saw that
record.
pop up on I
That's
think Monday night.
60% of all games.
One
That's
score.
a ton.
That's 8 points or less.
Keep taking dogs. There's 2 games I like this week, both because I don't think the favorites can be justified as 7-point favorites in this parity-filled NFL. The first one are the Detroit Lions +7 over the
Dallas Cowboys.
your Cowboys.
I don't disagree. I don't think the Cowboys should be a 7-point favorite.
Right, the line's a little too high. Detroit's coming off a bye and rested. Dallas is playing a slightly short week after a tough game at Philly. Dak's coming back. They're a little inflated. It's hard coming back after a few weeks. You're a little rusty timing-wise.
Yeah, he's played, not even like 3 quarters.
You add it all up, and I think the line's a little too high. Second game that's in the exact same category, the Texans are +7 at the Raiders.
Also off the bye.
Both are off the bye. This is just a lot of points for an okay Raiders team to lay. They can't justify it. Each of these games, I'm going to risk 1.07 units at the reduced VIG PointsBet offers to win a unit. Again, in the parity-filled NFL, I like to find underdogs, usually find spots where it's hard to justify the favorites being favored by a lot. In this case, I just don't buy it, so I'll sell it.
So going back to our discussion earlier off the top of the show, would these be candidates for a nice teaser?
No, because they're only 7.
Yeah, I'm saying the favorites. If you like Dallas and the Raiders.
Oh, would you tease them to 1?
Right.
You'd prefer if they were 7.5 or 8.5 point favorites.
Okay.
You usually lose ties on teasers.
Right.
If there's action on these teams to go up to 7.5, and you can do. But again,
as you get closer to Sunday, it would not surprise, right, if either one went to 7.5.
Right. One criticism I have, and I had from the beginning when we were assigned to do this show, is I'm making NFL bets on underdogs on Thursdays for game Sundays, and I'm going to lose a half a point way too often as a result.
Right. But guess what? The show's on Thursday right now.
And the bottom line
can't
makes
change
awesome
it.
wings on Thursday nights and not on Sundays.
All right, the 2 prime timers.
Wait, slow down. Before the prime timers, you talked about the Niners-Chiefs game.
Yes. So here's a stat for you.
Give me a stat.
The Niners, I think a lot of people would agree, have underachieved to a certain extent. Yeah. Injuries have played a factor. And not just a minor factor. Do you know? Now, I don't know if that's going to change for this week's game because we don't know all the actives and inactives on a Thursday. The Niners last week for their game, right, where they lost, I'll give myself a hand. I was on the Falcons. And you know why I was on the Falcons? How many healthy...
We're making a new rule. If you don't state it on the show, or at least text me before the game, it doesn't count.
Well, I have witnesses.
But you are... but you might have had 10 losers that you're not discussing.
No, I only bet 2 games last week.
Here's the new policy. If we don't discuss it on the show...
Or I don't text you before, I can't bring it up.
You can text it.
But it doesn't matter. I'm not here to pat myself on the back.
Just pat yourself on the back.
No, but the reason being is... Do you know how many healthy starters the Niners had on their defense last week?
4.
2.
That's not a big number
out of 11.
That's not good.
So their starters on defense, they were down 9 starters, including Bosa, big time guys. And I think that was the difference in the game. So was there something you wanted to comment about this game other than it's a really intriguing matchup?
It's an intriguing matchup. It's a tough line to set, right? The Niners are pretty tough, especially
the Chiefs
at
are
home.
2.5 point favorites on the road.
Yeah, that's the injuries and Mahomes isn't going to lose 2 in a row or that mentality.
Doesn't happen very often.
He didn't look awesome.
Very often.
The over-under is 48.5. If you work out the numbers, the final score in this game is expected to be Chiefs 26, Niners 23. I going under that Chiefs total. The 49ers at home giving up 26 points. That's a big number for them to give up at home.
But again, the injuries on defense kind of scare you going up against Mahomes and the Chief offense. The Sunday nighter is It's the 2-4 Pittsburgh Steelers off a big win, mind you, at Miami to take on the reeling 3-3 Dolphins. Tua is back. The Dolphins are a 7-point favorite. The total is 45. Any thoughts on that one? And I should point out, we still don't know who's starting a quarterback for the Steelers, right? We don't know.
I don't think it matters.
Pickett or Trubisky.
It's not going to matter. I don't think it moves the line.
But by the way, the word out of Pittsburgh is if Pickett's healthy, he will get the start, even though he really struggled last week. Trubisky came in and played fantastic in the second half to get that win over Brady and the Bucs. Monday night, another matching records for both games. 2-4 Chicago Bears at New England take on the 3-3 Zappy-led Patriots. The Patriots are an 8-point favorite. The total is 40. Any thoughts?
I'm actually looking on ESPN right now to figure out what's going to be. Oh, sweet. On Monday, there'll be a doubleheader in baseball playoffs.
2 games, yeah.
So we don't really have to even watch very much of that very mediocre-looking matchup. And that Bears offense, they can't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's a pass.
I'm going to say here now, a lot of the problems that Justin Fields is having are coaching. I think he's the player. He needs a complete overhaul in terms of who's guiding that offense, because it's the play calling. Everything is dreadful with the Bears, and they're not taking advantage of field strengths. That's just my own opinion. It's Corey time. He's here. This time he's been working all week.
The man,
so
the
we're not
legend.
gonna have any
vacations this week. Next week. Are you back?
Next week.
Next
He's
week?
back on vacation.
Are you back
I don't
on
think
vacation
so.
next week, Corey,
I
or
don't
no?
think so.
I'm not. I'm staying in cold Toronto for the foreseeable future.
You're not supposed to warm up here next week.
Okay, there
so-
we go. There we go.
And on the weekend.
Yeah.
Not that we're here to talk about weather unless it's related to football.
Yeah. No
Corey-
betting on that.
Yeah. Corey Travers is here, the head trader at PointsBet Canada, for his weekly visit. We'll start, as always, with the name a bet for this week.
Yep.
Harley hit you up with a 3-sporter. So why don't you explain and tell us how you came up with the line?
The 3-sporter is very fitting because we do have the sports EQUINOX tonight,
Right.
which I don't know if
We
I
talked
haven't
about
been here
it.
the whole
Yes,
time.
we talked about it.
But yeah, we've got the 3 options are the total amount of touchdowns in the Thursday night football game.
Total TDs tonight.
Yeah, and then we've got the Leafs goals, so just the Leafs, not the total goals in that game, in the Leafs Stars game tonight. That'll be happening right across the street. And then the third option is Astros runs. So again, that's not total game runs. It's just the Astros in the Astros-Yankees game tonight.
And the lines are?
The lines are, I believe I had it at -135 for the touchdowns in the football game.
So they're the favorite.
They are the favorite. The next 2 are very close.
Yeah, like within a nickel or something.
Yeah,
right?
they are. I actually don't even have it right in front of me right
I
now.
have it.
But
I'll pull it up.
yeah, they're both in the plus, I want to say 300 range is where I had them. Maybe slightly longer. Anyway.
It was -135
Yeah.
total TDs tonight. Leaf goals +280.
Right.
Oh, it's actually, and then Astros runs was +240.
Right. Okay, yeah. So for those are actually
Explain.
like pretty close. It's an over 6.5 on the hockey game, so a fairly high total. The Leafs are big favorites. It's a 7-run line, almost a pick at 7. At least that was at the time of pricing. For the baseball game, the Astros are favored, but they're not favored to the extent that the Leafs are. So they're both kind of in for that like 3.75-ish amount of goals or runs. But of course, you got the slightly higher, like the standard deviation on runs in a baseball game will be a little bit higher. So the ability to get over the football game total. The football game total is the total TDs are favoring the over fairly strongly in the 4.5 line. I believe it's like -150 on the over 4.5 line.
All right. You got all that.
I wrote
That's too many numbers for me, the non-math major.
I had total touchdowns at 5, Leafs goals at 4, Astros runs at 4. So clearly the total touchdowns are going to be the favorite. What's important to note is those guys out there that think, what do you mean 5 touchdowns are going to be scored? It's a Thursday night game. The final score is going to be 13-10. Okay, dude, then just bet it. If it's free money, it's available to you. PointsBet's taking unders, correct? You can
Absolutely.
bet the NFL under on the game.
You are allowed to.
You are allowed to.
And
It is
we-
in the T's and C's.
Right, and we've talked about like the crazy amount of unders, especially on Thursday night, right? Teddy threw that out last week, like insane. It's like over 80% over the last like 3 years or something. It's
then
nuts.
I guess it's free money because it's 43
That's
and a half
right.
right now,
Yeah.
and you can bet under and only lay 105 vig.
Wow.
Or you can start teasing me. You can start betting bigger unders. Let's see how far you
While
go.
you do
Totals.
that,
I'm going to check that.
I want to just quickly talk about baseball playoffs
Yep.
because other than the Houston Astros, for the most part, the dogs have been eating
Yeah.
the favorites.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Usually,
the Yankees did win, but it was harder than expected.
right.
Yeah.
5 games, right?
Yeah.
So they lost 2 of the games. They were probably, I think they were favored in pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
My question is, when that happens, isn't that good for the book? Generally?
Generally, I would
Right?
say,
When
yeah,
dogs are really, you're right. When the dogs are having such a huge edge.
people, I think, do have sometimes trouble conceptualizing that like a worse team will win a game, right? Like they'll say, like,
It's like
oh,
betting.
no-
People don't like betting unders.
Yeah, when something's a 60% chance to happen, people think it's like an 80 or 90% chance to happen. But really, like a really, really good baseball team, a team that wins 60% of its games wins 98 games in a year.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. So generally you've been doing well in the baseball playoffs
Baseball's
as a
been
book.
good. Yeah.
Baseball been Betty good?
That's
How-
That's an old Saturday Night Live. Though.
How good was that Coyotes win for you guys?
Oh,
Oh,
my
okay.
God.
I mean, anyone beating the Leafs is always going to be a good result.
Leafs
I
were
mean,
what?
we want the
Minus-
Leafs to do
were
well.
Were they minus 450 or
No,
something?
minus 550. Do your homework. 550.
Oh, right. Coyotes were plus
Some
450, right?
some jerk offs are laying. Think about it. $55 to win $10. If you're doing
So-
that, you could go broke betting even that small of a unit type of betting.
That's the kind of thing that we want to point out, especially to newbies, right? Like, that is a total non-starter. Right? If you're going to bet the Leafs, the only way you're going to do that is on the puck line, right?
No, even that.
But even I think the minus 1.5, you were still laying like 2 to 1.
I bet the Coyotes plus 2.5 laying minus 110. Plus 2.5 in a hockey game.
I believe
I
the
should've
minus
teased-
1.5 was still minus 200.
Yeah.
I said it's
Yeah.
probably
The
still
Leafs were
minus
a big
200.
favorite when they were down. You could still get 2 to 1 on the Coyotes when they were up a goal after the first.
Crazy. Do not bet those kind of favorites, people. That is how you go tilt.
Just to go full circle on the unders, if you wanted
Okay.
to really go hammer, because obviously there's only going to be 20 or 30 points scored tonight, right? Because that's what everybody just saw. If you want to go under 35.5 tonight, you can get 240.
Plus 240.
Plus 240. I mean,
Well, that's an alternate total,
that's an alternate.
which
total.
PointsBet offers.
They don't offer just alternate totals, but a sliding scale that pretty much allows you to pick your own total.
Yeah. No, that I know. The betting options are tremendous. All right. NBA has started.
Yep.
So the first night there were 2 games. Last night there was a full slate. Tonight 2 games. But did you see a lot of action on on the opening night and
Oh,
last
for sure.
night? Obviously with the Raptors playing last night, right? You
The
get a lot of
Raptors are big, but like really, like NBA is very big. Like NBA actually outperforms NHL even in Ontario.
Right.
Really?
It's just-
That's
That's interesting.
and important for everybody to note here. I mean, the ratings are obsessed with hockey and they think hockey is king. But what they mean by hockey is king is if you're an old 65-year-old white guy, hockey is king. But you look at the demographics at the Raptors and it's multicultural like the city. And there are people that don't need a cane or a navy blue suit to enter, and that's the future.
We haven't seen like a full season of NFL yet on our book because we started
Right.
in Canada in April. But like globally, NBA and like this is mostly the US, which is going to be very similar to us in terms of how NBA relates to NFL. But like NBA holds its own with NFL in terms of total handle. Like per game, NFL is obviously king, but NBA can hold its own. It's a very fun betting sport. There's so many things you can bet on in an NBA game.
And so along those lines, are like what we've seen with the NFL, is a lot of the NBA action props?
We do see a lot of props, obviously relative to like hockey. There's fairly limited prop options. Like the NFL, the NBA has a ton of prop options.
Oh, yeah.
So people love betting props on the NBA. People love betting just alternates on the NBA. I mean, the money line's obviously good for anything. But yeah, totals, alt totals, quarter lines, half lines, really everything gets a lot in NBA.
All
And
right,
the point spread was huge last night. Like, I mean, the Hawks, Rockets push, the Raptors covered by like a point.
Yeah.
Like the value.
Utah had a
0.7
nice upset
seconds.
last night, right? Utah with a big upset last night
Yeah,
over the
but
Nuggets.
if you can get good value in the NBA, like each point comes in 4% of the time. Like the games go, it's 200 points are scored and
Right.
it lands within a point of the spread. You're good 54% of the time if you can beat
Precious
it by a point.
Achua had that dunk with 0.7 seconds left that covered the spread.
Yep.
Went from a 1-point game to a 3-point game. His individual point line was 9.5. He went from 8 to 10.
Oh my God.
Precious. Precious
that-
rewarding
so-
the Raptor faithful
and-
who
That's
also
right.
bet.
And we were talking about this before you arrived as well, how the NBA now has to like dissect every assist, every everything because of the impact it has on all the prop bets.
For sure.
We always need to know about tonight, the Thursday nighter.
Yep.
You seeing action one way or the other? Are people hammering the unders after we've been telling everybody all these
It's not
numbers?
the unders aren't being hammered to the extent
People just won't bet unders.
that you would think. It is a lot more. We do see a lot more Cardinals money than Saints money so far. That applies to both the money line and the spread.
We're going to talk about that game in a minute. How careful do you have to be with the line on a game like that? We don't know who the starting quarterback is. It hasn't been officially announced. It looks like it's going to be Andy Dalton. But Like, does that concern you when
I mean,
you're
it's
setting
tough.
lines?
It's certainly tough. Like when you're setting lines, it's a tough consideration. But obviously, it's like during the week, it's looking out for the news because like as soon as something is announced. I mean, like in this case, it's not like Drew Brees is going to come out of retirement or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when there's player news, like that has a massive impact on all the lines. So like as traders, we have to be very vigilant, checking like all of our tweet decks, basically. Which it seems like, oh, you're on Twitter at work. Yeah, well, it's important information.
And before we let you go, as always, anything we need to know about Sunday line movements? Anything, are you seeing action on any particular games?
One that was notable that I thought I'd bring up here, and obviously it's very early. We'll see a lot of bets closer on. But I believe it's a 3-point line right now in the Chiefs-Niners game.
When I looked earlier, it was 2.5.
Right, so it's kind of been fluctuating between the 2.5 and the 3. We're seeing a
Chiefs favored, by the way.
Yeah. Sorry, Chiefs favored in San Francisco.
Right.
But yeah, we're seeing a lot more money on the Chiefs there.
That's not surprising.
Like over 80%.
And that's not surprising given Mahomes and the Chiefs have become a very public team. I talked about all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball for the Niners. That doesn't shock me
Early
at all.
in the week, that's not the analysis. The analysis is Mahomes isn't going to lose 2 in a row.
Well, I'm saying public team.
And the Niners just lost, quote unquote, badly
to the Falcons. Correct.
Yeah.
That's
Corey,
a bad loss.
Thanks as always.
Thanks a lot, guys.
For the time and the knowledge. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Let's get to the Thursday nighter.
Sure.
We've talked a little bit about it already. I'll set it up. It's a pair of 2-4 teams. 2-4 New Orleans Saints at Arizona. Take on the 2-4 Cards. Cards 2.5-point favorites. Total is dropped. It was 44 earlier in the day. It's now 43.5. Couple of notes, as I was just saying with Corey. Don't know for sure, but it looks like Andy Dalton will start at quarterback. Saints are still down 2 of their 3 starting wide receivers. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry are a no-go. Chris Olave, the rookie, is supposed to be back. They're also missing their best corner, Marshawn Lattimore. On the other side, DeAndre Hopkins is back after his 6-game suspension. Good timing. Hollywood Brown, who they brought in to be the number 1 guy while Hopkins was out, he's injured. I was looking at some numbers, and I'm not going to give you the specifics, but there's 20 games with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins as a combo. 10 with them, like 10 with Hopkins, 10 without. The numbers are crazy. They score like 6 more points a game. All the numbers skew higher when Hopkins is there. Just pointing it out. Do you have a pick on this one?
I do. It's a small same-game parlay. There's a lot of quarterback questions around the Saints. That's why the line's almost 3 points for the Cards. At best, the Cards would be ranked similar to the Saints, if not the Saints slightly higher. The only thing I know about this game is Kyler Murray is playing. And he's vital to the Cards' success. So I got a 4-leg same-game parlay that the Cards cover the 2.5.
So Cards minus 2.5.
Murray gets over 35.5 rushing yards.
You know he had 100 yards last week?
He throws for more than 1.5 touchdowns and more than 23.5 completions.
So you are banking on a good game from Kyler Murray tonight.
The same game parlay pays 9-1. I'll risk 0.15 units to win 1.35 units.
Sorry, 0.5 of a unit?
0.15 to win 1.35 units.
I'm just writing it down. And the last one was, what was his completions?
23.5.
Over 23.5 completions. All right. I'm going to add to it. I'm going to make a pick.
We got a Jorey pick.
And it's sort of going along with your line of thinking, actually. And we didn't talk about this before. I had no idea you were making this parlay, to be open and honest about it. With Hollywood Brown out and it's Hopkins' first game back, and doing a little research, Saints have not done extremely well covering tight ends, right? And they're down Lattimore, so, right, that affects their secondary. I'm going Zach Ertz over 5.5 receptions, plus 120 for 1 unit.
Okay.
I thought about Hopkins, but I haven't heard that he's going to be on a snap count or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But first game back, hasn't seen the field yet this year. His numbers were a little high for the first game out, even though I think they're going to try and feed him. But I think Ertz is going to see a lot of balls tonight. I certainly hope so. Because 5.5 is a big number.
That's a lot for a tight end.
It is, but down another receiver. Murray and Ertz have a pretty good connection, and I think you're going to see a pretty good game out of the Cardinals offense tonight because they've been struggling. They only scored 9 points last week at Seattle, and Seattle's defense is nothing to write home about. Any other picks, whether it be MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, college football?
I got an MLB and an NHL for you.
Wow, look at you. You're back on the horse this week.
I'm back on the horse. Well, in MLB, the Phillies blew that 4-0 lead. Series is now tied. Incidentally, the Astros are even money to win the World Series, rightfully so. They're dominant. 6 straight league championships is amazing, and they're up 1-0. My bet is under 7.5 runs in tomorrow night's Padres-Phillies game.
Under, who's going? Under 7.5 runs, because I assume you've looked at the pitching matchup.
Of course. Let me go with the Y, more importantly than the pitching matchup. The line for most of these games is in the 6.5 to 7 range.
Depending on the starting pitchers, yes.
This line's a little inflated after yesterday's offensive outburst. The relievers, this is important. Relievers have a day off. So you get to go back with
everybody's
all your
available,
big relievers.
Right?
And in a 1-1 game, it's not you're up 2-0 where you're not going to burn everybody. In a 1-1 game, in game
1-1 series, right?
You're bringing out everybody. 7's a key number in MLB. That 4-3, it's the most common final score in baseball. I love betting unders in general in the playoffs, especially after a big offensive outburst. I got to lay a little extra vig. It's 1-1 because it's 105 on the over at PointsBet, but I'm willing to risk 1.1 units under 7.5 runs.
All right. Now, I'm just going to take a wild guess. I looked at the NHL schedule tonight, but I knew we wouldn't be talking too much about it. I'm just taking a wild guess. Dallas Stars.
I'm on Dallas.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, but the Leafs are minus 196 home to Dallas.
Who's 3-0?
How anybody could be laying
you do know it's not Ottinger tonight. It's Wedgwood for the Stars in goal.
It could be the Zamboni driver. I don't give a shit.
You know me. I like to give information.
Yeah, interesting. The Leafs aren't. Who could believe the Leafs are winning this game 66% of the time when they've done nothing to justify anything so far this year?
And Dallas has looked great the first 3 games. They've been dominant.
You can get plus 160 on Dallas.
Yeah.
It's not a bad price against this struggling Leafs team. I'm going to do it as a small shot. I'm going to risk 0.5 unit to win 0.8 units.
0.5 units. So, last week, Harley had been struggling for a couple weeks, so he scaled back. Basically had a kind of a break-even week. You lost a tiny, tiny bit. You're feeling better about yourself, right? So
it's also a function of the opportunities. With the Equinox, there's a lot of sports games. There's 12 NHL games. One good part about the NHL, like Corey said, it doesn't get as much love, which means it doesn't get as much bookie paying attention to it when NBA primetime games are going on, the NFL and the MLB playoffs. So
you're looking for an edge, and I give the background because it's time for our second reminder of the day.
PointsBet wants you to
enjoy your gambling experience, but if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call the Connex or Connex Ontario helpline at 1-866-531-2600 or message PointsBet's amazing customer support, and they will definitely help you personally. Time for the picks recap. And there's a lot.
There is quite a few. I was up 0.23 units entering the week. In the NHL, I'm taking Dallas plus 160. That game starts in just over an hour. Small bet, risk 0.5 unit, win 0.8 units. Again, the Leafs are struggling and still inflated popular favorites. In the NFL game tonight, I got a same game parlay paying 9-1, and I'm risking 0.15 units to win 1.35 units. It's a Kyler Murray Cardinal special that they win by at least 3. Murray rushes for at least 36 yards, passes for at least 2 touchdowns, and gets at least 24 completions. In tomorrow's MLB playoff action, I got under 7.5 runs in Padres Phillies, risking 1.1 units to win a unit. Again, the 7 is the most likely score in baseball, and getting that as a win is always nice. Finally, in NFL action on Sunday, I'm going to take 2 7-point dogs separately. The Lions +7 at 1 o'clock and the Texans +7 at 4 o'clock, risking 1.07 units on PointsBet's reduced VIG to win a unit.
And you forgot my pick.
Jorey's pick, down 3.07 whopping units. Zach Ertz, a tight end, to catch at least 6 balls.
Over 5.5.
Ballsy pick, lots of balls. That guy's got to catch +120 for a unit.
All right. Next week, we'll be back with another edition for Week 8 in the NFL, and who knows what else, because you never know what's coming out of the professional's brain over there.
Nope.
But we'll try and, talk about little betting concepts. I like the stuff about teasers today. I thought it was timely.
Yep.
And good information, especially for newbies. On the way out, we say thank you, and there are many.
Many.
Producer, Jordan LaRoche, thank you, sir.
That poor guy was eating wings for lunch when this show launched at 5 o'clock today. Okay, that's how hard he works.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He enjoyed the wings, right? You enjoyed them?
Oh, yeah, of course. Who doesn't enjoy the wings here?
Bottom line wings.
Well,
bottom line,
and
we enjoy the wings.
We thank our great hosts at the Bottom Line. Come down, check it out, say hi. We're here every Thursday. We start at 5:10 Eastern. We also say thanks to our regular visitor, Corey Travers, PointsBet Canada's head trader. We think we'll have Teddy Greenstein back next week.
He's going to sporting events. He's going to Denver for like a triple header.
He's entertaining
PointsBet
VIPs, playing golf.
We got to go to Denver for some stuff.
Okay.
But now it's getting cold. Let's wait till like May. Maybe the Nuggets, if they make the playoffs after that loss to Utah, who knows?
We also thank our great sponsor, PointsBet Canada. Don't forget, download the app if you're in Ontario and play responsibly. Enjoy. We want you and encourage you, especially with the reduced VIG, to open an account at PointsBet Canada. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Rate, review, subscribe. Don't forget to reach out to either one of us on Twitter, at Jorey Middle, at Sharp Edge Picks, or email us to playon@pointsbet.ca. If you email us and it's worthy, we'll read it. And you can follow PointsBet Canada as well on Twitter. And so, as we say each and every week, for Harley, the professional, I'm Jorey. May all your picks be winners, ours too. We'll talk to you next week for another edition of Play On with Jorey and Harley, powered by PointsBet. Enjoy a unique day in sports, the Equinox Plus. Let's get some winners.
Amen.